Hi there, I am Farron Hart, and I am doing a video lesson on volleying with two hands with an underhanded pattern. I have my beautiful daughter, Jolie Hart, here as my assistant. This lesson is geared towards first grade. It's a first grade standard. But she's going to kind of help us out today to model some of the things that we're going to need. So, you need some of the items that we do need is space. You can either perform this within the gym, or if you wanted to do it outside, and the playground is great. And then you need balloons. Enough balloons for each student to have one, plus a few extras, just in case if one pops or one balloon kind of gets away from everybody. You want to have extra balloons. So in my particular first grade class that I'm in, we have 37 students. So I would probably blow up about 42 balloons. So each of my students had a balloon. Now, the first thing that I always do in my lesson is we warm up. And that warm up kind of consists of running laps that we play to music. They'll probably run about a minute, and then the music stops, they freeze, and I call out an exercise. And they would do that exercise for 30 seconds. We're going to kind of do a condensed version of that, so to give you an idea of what that looks like. But so, Jolie, if I may. Oops, I should have got one that's ready to rock and roll. All right, get ready to run, Joe. With your warm-up, it does really great. You can incorporate your locomotion skills, your non-locomotor skills, and manipulative skills all in one activity. Jumping jack. So we would incorporate jumping jacks, we would do burpees, we would have push-ups, we would have sit-ups, and we would do toe touches. Freeze, gallop. You're going to have to do a bigger circle than that. Burpee. So as you can tell, that each of these activities work muscles and develop the skills of the student. Let's do a crab walk. Make it a wider circle, please. All right, do toe touches. All right, freeze. And the last thing we're going to do is bear crawl. Go for it. It's in the air, it's in my blood, it's rushing on. Don't need no reason, don't need control. We go to a school where we are the Grizzlies, so they like to do bear crawl. Alright, so now that we've kind of done our warm-up and we've got all the muscles and we've worked on all these additional skills, we go straight into what our lesson's going to be about. And our lesson this week is volleying a balloon with two hands with an underhanded pattern. And we'll also talk about the proper stance when you're volleying a ball, and we're going to talk about force. But the first thing that we're going to talk about is self-space. And we like to give our kids self-space. Jolie, can you also do some self-space? You need to come over this way. Self-space ensures that Nobody is within your space. You've got your arms out and you're kind of slinging it. As you can see, Jolie's in my self space, so we both would need to move just a little bit. And even now, like our fingers are touching, so we'd have to move some more because we could possibly hit each other within our activity. Now, the stance when you're getting ready to volley is to have your feet shoulder widths apart, your knees slightly bent, and you're going to have your hands together, palms out, upward facing. You're going to keep your eye on the balloon because how can you hit it if you're not watching it? So, and you're going to want to use the right amount of force. And my balloon got away from me. Force is important. If you use too much force, you've completely lost control of your balloon. And it goes off elsewhere. It means you're going to have to take off running, which means you've gone into somebody's self space if we have friends over here in this area or wherever the balloon may go. So it's very important that we use to be very light and kind of hit it very gently with our palms and our fingers and to maintain our self space. So Jolie, show me what we need to do. Your shoulders should be what? Your feet should be what?
Shoulder width apart.
And your knees are?
Slightly bent.
Your eyes are?
On the balloon.
And how are your hands looking? Very good. So you ready? We are outside and the wind is blowing a little bit, so it kind of takes control of our balloon just some. But we also are practicing this skill too, so we're never perfect the first time we practice a skill. Excellent, excellent. And you can even volley with two friends if you wanted to. If you wanted to go back and forth, our feet, with our two hands underneath, and there it goes. So with the activity for students to practice, what we're going to do is we're going to play music and they're going to practice volleying this balloon while listening to music and trying to maintain their self-space. Sometimes it could be a little hard because balloons do tend to have a mind of their own and kind of get away from us. So there may be some movement, but we're going to do our best to keep the volley within the self-space. So Jolie, what do you need to do first?
Have your feet shoulder width apart.
Shoulder width apart.
Have your knees slightly bent.
Slightly bent.
Have your hands cupped and always have your eyes open.
Fabulous. All right, so let's play a little bit of music while you volley some. Excellent. So capture it. So this time, I'm going to let her move a little while she's volleying the balloon to kind of change up the activity just a little bit. So go ahead, Jolie. Okay. A little more than that. Excellent. Now, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to kind of incorporate a science element and within and play a game. And by doing so, our science standard that we're talking about is the basic needs of plants and animals. So as Jolie is volleying her balloon, she's going to call out an animal. She's going to talk about the basic needs that this animal needs to live and to survive. This animal or a plant, pretty much an animal because plants all need the same thing. So Jolie, go right ahead. I want you to volley and call out an animal The food, water, shelter, be specific. Go for it. And be talk loud.
Hummingbirds. They need sugar water. They need a nest for shelter. They need trees to put their nest in. And they eat bugs.
Good. Call on another one.
Bears. They eat berries and meat. They sometimes eat meat. They live in the woods or in the forest.
Excellent. We'll do another animal. Let's do a squirrel.
Squirrel. They eat nuts and they eat seeds and they need to live.
Very good. So, pick your favorite animal and then remember to volley while you're doing this. Remember what we've said. Keep your feet shoulder width, knees slightly bent, hands upwards, and hit in an underhanded pattern. So call out another animal and their basic needs using the correct position.
A cow. They live on land, and they have to eat wheat or any type of grain, and usually people take care of them.
So as you can see, when you add in a different component, we're learning this skill, but it's hard to kind of do two things at one time. You're having to keep your eye on the balloon, but also think of science things as these basic needs of an animal as well. So your mind is working in two different, great way to multitask. Now, as these students are going around, I tend to have a checklist to check off for assessments. And these are the things that I'm looking for in my assessments. Were you able to at least volley the balloon 5 times in your self-space? I'm checking to see if kids can do the two-handed underhand pattern. I want to see that they have the proper stance to get ready to volley. I tend to ask students, so what happens if you were to hit a balloon too hard in your volley?
It would go up in the air and you would lose momentum with it and it would get another.
Excellent. And what happens if you strike it too gently? Very good. So she's kind of using some big 5th grade words there, but you tend to lose control, and if you strike it too gently, it doesn't go up. You're not going to get enough height to kind of move it around some. So those are my assessments. So for our closing activity, to kind of cool the kids down, to get them ready to head back into the classroom, we're going to play what I call Teacher Says. It's a lot like Simon Says. It's actually just like Simon Says, but instead of Simon, it's the teacher. So you have all the students together. They all kind of understand the rule because we've been playing it all year long, but nobody really gets out. So the teacher will say, Teacher says, touch your toes. And all the students touch their toes. And what they're working on is doing some stretches. So go ahead and touch your toes. Teacher says, touch your toes. And they're just kind of stretching out their muscles. Then I might say, jumping jacks. Well, the kids won't do jumping jacks because the teacher didn't say. Now, the teacher says, stand back up. Now let's just say if a student does do jumping jacks, they're not out because we want all kids to participate. We just might jokingly say, hey, don't forget to turn on those listening ears, because we're not big on making kids feel bad about themselves either. They just kind of need to focus, and they're so competitive sometimes that they just jump the gun and just do their thing. So we just kind of gently remind them about turning on their listening ears and to hear what the teacher has to say. So we'll just kind of play a few rounds. So teacher says, do shoulder stretches. Teacher says, use the other arm. Put your arms down. Ooh, she's good. Teacher says to put your arms down. Teacher says to touch your toes. Stretch out those leg muscles. Touch your toes. Excellent, excellent. Stand back up. Do a lunge. Ah, teacher says to stand back up. Teacher says do toe touches again. Teacher says go into a downward dog, down facing dog. Excellent. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Teacher says stand back up. Teacher said arm stretches. Yeah. Wonderful. Teacher says other arm. Fabulous. Teacher says to do a side stretch. Stand back up. Touch your toes. Oh, teacher says go to the other side. Fabulous, fabulous. All right. Teacher says come to the center. And now it is time for our students to head back to class. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.